This is the Power Element Podcast, episode 50. All right, my name is Paul. I produce the podcast. I am a journeyman lineman by trade. Today, we got another episode for you that includes our special guest, Sarah from Tiny Tradesmen. Sarah is the author of the kids' book series, Tiny Tradesmen, that highlights the trades, giving kids the encouragement to pursue a career in the trades. And the first book is titled, Light Up the World. When I grow up, I want to be a lineman. Excuse me. All right, get to the show, but first let me highlight a few of our promotional partners. Milwaukee Tool. Since the company began in 1924, Milwaukee Tool has led the industry in developing innovative solutions that deliver increased productivity and unmatched durability for professional construction users. Head on over to MilwaukeeTool.com or at Milwaukee Tool on Instagram. Dragonware. Keep your focus on the job, not the changing conditions. Dragonware's Pro Dry Tech FR shirts and beanies offer unparalleled heat stress relief, moisture management, and sun protection, ensuring you stay safe and comfortable all day long. The Power Element Podcast listeners can score 10% off using code NEWGEAR10. It's going to be NEWGEAR10 at dragonware.com. Wagner Smith Equipment. Wagner Smith Equipment Co. is your one-stop shop for all your job site and tooling equipment. You can expedite and simplify your day with a large assortment of trustworthy services and products. Visit wagnersmith.com, download their app, or give them a call at 1-866-66-6567. That's 866-66-6567. Wagner Smith Equipment are your preferred tooling and equipment experts. All right, gonna highlight a few more few more partners here. Klein Tools, Working Athlete, Gelco, Co Eyewear, and Buckingham Manufacturing. All right, special thank you to Daniel. He provides us with all our music. Such a talented young man. I'll put his info in the show notes. Special thank you to Lima Mama and High Voltage Commander. All right, last but not least, I want to thank the entire Sturgis, California workforce. Without you, this podcast would not be possible. All right, let's wrap up the ads. Get to the show. This is the Power Element Podcast, episode 50. Enjoy the show. Some jobs pay better, some jobs smell better, and some jobs have no business being treated like careers. But work is never the enemy, regardless of the wage, because somewhere between the job and the paycheck, there's still a thing called opportunity. And that's what people need to pursue. That's a quote from Mike Rowe, probably one of the biggest advocates for the trades, known more for his dirty job role too, host. So, someone else who is passionate about the trades, Sarah, how we doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Appreciate you coming on.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Got some good branding going on. I like the Tiny Tradesman's hat, the earrings too. All right. I'm in for a little treat here. Where are you calling? Where are we getting you from today?
I am in Chelan, Washington.
Washington.
Yeah. Right in the north middle of the state.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And looks like you're in a house. Typically, you guys were kind of tramping a little bit, some traveling.
Yeah, we spent 12 years on the road in California, and we just moved back to Washington. My husband and I are both from Washington State originally, and we just moved back 2 years ago to Washington.
So it feels like it's full circle. You guys are home. You guys feel kind of pretty confident in the decision, just kind of be where you're at? To be continued.
No, let's just say the tramping life is calling us back, maybe in a different capacity. Probably not in RV again. But yeah, we're probably heading back to Cali, to be truthful.
Cool. Looking forward to having you. Come on.
My husband is not a homebody. He cannot sit in one spot. So
that's crazy. All right, cool. We're going to get there. We're going to talk about you and your husband. But first, I want to talk a little bit about you and what you got going on. Is that cool?
Yeah.
All right. So you mentioned, let's talk about where you grew up, kind of that childhood. Kind of introduce yourself.
Yeah, I grew up in Spanaway, Washington, which is near Tacoma. Anyone that knows Spanaway knows that you should stay away from there.
Why is that?
It's just like, it's a rough spot, man. Yeah, my neighbors dealt drugs. My husband and I were just talking about the other day how I would play in the backwoods, and my friend and I were in the backwoods one time, and the cops came up and they're like, "Come out with your hands up." And me and my friend were like, "Us?" Like, oh no, it's just the neighbors again. So there's that.
Yeah, it may sound like a good excuse to leave that neighborhood.
Yeah.
So what else? What would you get into as a kid? What were some of your hobbies as young Sarah?
Yeah, I grew up, the typical daddy's girl, really into sports. I played baseball, tennis from a young age. I played on my dad's, we had a church softball team. My dad was the coach. So I was out there playing, with the adult men since I was like 7 years old. They wouldn't let me actually play on the team till I was 13. So I was the little mascot scorekeeper. But yeah, I love that. And we played tennis together after baseball practice every Sunday after church. And yeah, sports. And then I got into I was really into writing. I loved writing my whole life as a kid. I just loved writing little stories and drawing pictures. I was always artistic. And then once I got into junior high, journalism kind of called my name. So I just knew that I wanted to be a journalist right away, from 7th grade on. So that's how that started.
What kind of, how'd your dad treat you as far as when you were an athlete kind of coach relationship?
Oh yeah. He was hard. I think he might be harder now on my nephew, on his grandson. He's about to coach his soccer team. And I'm like, this might not be a good idea.
Oh,
you
no.
might have the cops called.
Tough love,
so
huh?
Hardcore. Yeah. But it was good for me, and he didn't make me dislike the sports. I loved doing it, and I loved being with him. We were always together. He was really into exercise and running. And so I would ride my bike alongside him and then finally be able to run with him when I got a little older. But yeah, I mean, he taught me the biggest line I came out of it with was when we were in tennis and I made a shot that was crappy or something. He'd be like, "Hey, I told you to do this, da, da, da." And I'd be like, "I know, Dad." And he says, "Well, if you know, then do it." So that always plays in my mind.
Your dad wasn't a lineman, right?
No, but maybe he should have been.
That sounds good.
He was a forestry technician. He still wears his big old clogger boots around the house.
Oh, I gotcha. That's not really considered a trade, forestry technician, I guess, right?
I don't think so. It's kind of muddy water sometime, I don't think so though.
Who was did you have any role models or was there models that in your early life of a tradesman?
Oh, man. Yeah, I'm having to think. But yes, my grandfather, who the second book is actually inspired by, my welding book, it's Let the Sparks Fly. That was inspired by my grandpa, Howard. We called him Howie, and I actually called him Papa Owie. My cousins and I called him Papa Owie growing up because he always had all these scars on his hands from welding. I guess he should have been using his safety gloves more often.
Maybe.
But yeah, I loved him. He was very a stoic, quiet kind of guy, tough, gruff tradesman type guy. But yeah, I loved him. He was my grandpa. So
aside from
him and my husband would get along so well.
Oh yeah.
I wish he were here to meet my husband because he was kind of my husband's really into gold prospecting. My grandpa thought that was really cool. And my grandpa's into he was into classic cars and motorcycles and drinking beer. So they would probably get along.
There you go. More about your grandpa, less kind of about the relationship with the book, but was there anything that you realized that kind of influenced you from your childhood into now about kind of the relationship with your grandfather? I see it now with myself, just I wish, because obviously it sounds like you mentioned your grandparents passed, that, I wish I would have taken the opportunity to ask them questions about their life and their skill set and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think we lose so much of that. And it kills me too, especially the journalist part of me, that I didn't get those stories written down before they were gone. I think that's a little bit of a regret probably. But I was so young too that it was, for me, my grandpa died when I was I think I was like 13 or
Right.
so, or 12, something like that. So I was really too young to even think about that at the time. But yeah, I do wish I could have known a little bit more about him, because I know he was also in the military. My mom was actually born in England, and so there are just a lot of cool stories that I probably missed out on.
It's I think if I look back, my grandfathers, they were kind of like the biggest like heroes. Like they were just kind of indestructible to my knowledge.
Yeah.
That were those kind of had that presence. The tall tales were like he swam across the ocean. He had like kind of like some skin cancer scars. At the time, I didn't know because they were telling me they were like he like wrestled a shark when he was swimming the ocean, like just weird shit like that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So, and you're like, wow, like you're sitting next to the guy and you're like, wow, this I'm sitting next to like a hero, a legend, and like that.
Yeah.
Obviously, when you kind of grow up, you kind of hear that. You're able to kind of sift through the tall tales, but you're just so enamored by who they are. So I kind of feel like
the greatest generation, right?
Yeah, I mean, they endured so much, just the depression and just the wars were just a little bit different, fought a little different, and just an amazing generation that I, like you said, because kind of you and I kind of are creative now, where the podcast is a long form storytelling, and you have your own creative outlet that you wish you had those conversations. So
right,
cool. Well, you didn't think we were talking about grandpas.
I didn't.
Okay. All right, let's fast forward a little bit. Your husband, Chris, Spanky,
Spanky,
named after the little rascal himself.
Yes, exactly.
You guys met in college, right?
Yeah, we both went to Washington State University, and I went for journalism. Obviously, that was my big thing. They have a really good journalism school there, old Edward R. Murrow. And so, yeah, I did my 4 years there. My husband, however, he pretty much went to blow some scholarship money and drink a lot of beer. So he did that successfully, both of those things.
Got his degree in money spending and beer drinking.
Yeah.
4-year degree.
And he got his MRS degree. He got a wife out of it.
Oh, there you go. There you go. How'd you guys meet? Like at a party, or what happened?
Yeah. So a couple of his really good friends, he grew up in a small town north of Spokane, Washington, and of like 200 people. So his graduating class in high school is 20 people.
Nice.
And so like pretty much everyone in his county they're all related pretty much. But yeah, he had this really tight knit group of friends that he grew up with from like birth. And two of the guys were living in my same freshman dorm. So he would come up before he went to Wazoo. He was going to community college, and he would come down to Pullman to visit and party and hang out. And I just met him, wandering the halls at the dorm. And then I started hanging out with him and his group of friends. And then, yeah, I didn't really like him. I just wanted to be friends. But he wrote me in.
So he pursued you. So you didn't like him, but he liked you. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, but it was good that way, because before that I was like I would come on way too strong to guys and was like way too desperate. So I needed somebody to chase me instead.
You're like, please like me, please date me.
Yeah, it was not good. So, but yeah, I really fell in love with him because he took me up to his family's 4th of July party. And I just saw how much his aunts and all of his family loved him and just thought so highly of him. So that really made me fall in love with him.
That's cool.
Yeah.
How long was that until like that dating?
We will have been together 20 years this year.
Oh, congrats.
So we started. I went on not a Christmas. I went on a Canada formal trip with him in April in college. That was like our first kind of date, but I was like, I'm not going to kiss him or anything. I don't even like this guy. He's like, I can't believe you. I took you all the way to Canada and you didn't even kiss me.
Dang.
Yeah, I know. I'm pretty like, stick to my guns,
That's good.
But then we started dating. It wasn't until September, or it wasn't until July that we started dating. Sorry. Yeah.
So what happened? So obviously Chris made a career shift here.
Yeah.
Or there,
yes.
I'm talking about in that time. Sorry.
Yes. So he dropped out of college. He proposed to me, and then he was like, "Oh, I got to get my stuff together because I'm going to have a wife to support, a family, whatever." So he had always wanted to be a lineman. He grew up with his dad was a logger, and he was really good friends, like best friends with a lineman at the PD. Had a lot of linemen at the local PD up in their area. Who he was friends with. And so that they had a big influence on my husband's life. And so he actually always wanted to be a lineman, but he just went to school because they gave him some scholarships. So he dropped out, and then he went to line school. And then we got married June 17th, 2006, and packed up our stuff and drove down to California the next day to start his apprenticeship.
Wow. That's crazy. What was your,
Fresno.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Fresno's, that'd be interesting.
You can say it.
No, it'd be interesting. I don't know much about it. Our buddy Dan Jamison's from there, and he has some stories. It sounds like you're living just kind of hanging around. Dan's always talking about just some good.
Kind of like Spanaway.
Some good farm living and just kind of hanging out.
Yeah. Well, and then actually, there's another little neighboring town right by it that's more farmy, Clovis is what it's called, and it was a cute little town. And I started working at the little local newspaper there when I was there, but.
That's kind of where Southern California, I think, stops. And it's Central California. Then once you pass that, then you're NorCal. And it's 3 different states in one. It's really crazy.
It really is. Yeah.
What was your knowledge of line work when he said, "I want to be a lineman"? What is, you want to play football?
Yeah, none. Yeah. That's what everyone says. But no, I had no knowledge of it whatsoever. I don't even remember my response. The only thing I really remember about when we were discussing him being a lineman and tramping was that I was going to have to live in an RV. And I was like, what? He's like, no, I don't. I grew up in an 800 square foot trailer. I'm ready to get out of the trailer hood, man. Come on.
I want some hard plumbing. I want some hardwired house.
Yeah. I want no wheels.
No wheels. Yeah, that's
funny. How you gonna do this to me?
So how do you pitch it to you? What was it just come on, we're going?
Oh, he's all adventure. He's like, this is going to be exciting. It's a big adventure. And I'm like, okay. So we actually didn't start it right away, though. We went to Cali. We got a little apartment. We didn't know what was going to go on. We had no idea about, how the apprenticeship worked, how it was oh, you got to work here for a few months and then you're hitting the road somewhere else. Yeah. We didn't have a clue. So he started down there, and then he actually had the opportunity to go back to his hometown up in Newport, Washington, and work at a PUD up there and finish out his apprenticeship up there. So that's what he ended up doing. So we could go back to Washington. But then once he got that done and got his journeyman ticket, well, this is another part of the story. We took off on a world trip after that, and that changed the direction of our lives completely. But then we headed back to Cali and did the RV thing. And I was way more into the adventure part of it at that point and ready to live with less.
So kind of going back again, I wanted to pull a couple questions into that. Was young Sarah, young Chris engaged or newly married? What was your expectation? Did you have dinner ready? Were you just kind of all right, I'm going to sit here and twiddle my thumbs until my husband gets home, knowing that, not knowing the schedule? Yeah.
Yes and no. It was a really hard adjustment. Our first year of marriage was definitely the hardest. It was really rough. And yeah, we talk about it still. We're like, that was brutal. But yeah, I didn't know what to expect. And then I was in Fresno. I was in a place where I didn't know anybody. I didn't know what to do with myself. I knew I wanted to get a job because I'm just that type of person. I'm not going to sit around and do nothing. You know what? So I'm not going to sit around and do nothing. I'm really into exercising. I work out, and then I would wander around, try to find things to do. But yeah, it was hard because I was lonely and, wasting my days at clearance shopping at Target pretty much. I got nothing else to do.
Laundry's done. I don't know what time he's going to be home at.
Yeah. It's I do all the things I need to do. And now I'm okay, time to play.
Do you still find that some of those challenges of being an early line wife, line family, do you still feel that you have troubles with those same problems now in your marriage, or have you?
No, no, we've figured it out more. Well, plus, we're in Chelan now, and he's at a PUD instead of doing the contract like on the road, go go go. Uh, and so he's working 410, so that's cake. He's off with the kid right now, so it's nice.
Okay.
But when we were doing contract work, we fell into more of a rhythm, and it was still challenging for me because I was still lonely. Like I would meet maybe a couple people, and then it's like, oh, gotta go next place. It's like, oh crap, I was just getting used to this one, and that was tough. But I also kind of learned to thrive on the like reinventing myself constantly. So I wrote some books, I did some freelance work, I got my personal trainer's license, I ran a marathon. I was like, let's just figure out some stuff to do, like keep busy, because I'm not just going to sit at home and do nothing. That's not in my nature.
Yeah. Do you find yourself being an advocate or being like someone that the young, maybe newly engaged, soon to be line wife? Do you have those conversations now? Because you get some pretty good exposure with your books. I've met you twice at the rodeos and stuff. So do you kind of feel like you're obligated to kind of help maybe that next generation as they kind of run into those problems that you maybe had early on in your marriage?
Yeah, I mean, my husband and I have conversations with a lot of our friends who are still in that trade, and it's safe to say my husband's done some counseling sessions under the table, not paid actually, but with some good friends, and just trying to help them navigate that life and the long hours and the give and take of a line wife and her husband, because we've talked a lot about too that there's a lot of line wives out there who like the fancy things and who like their husband making a lot of money, but they also want him to be home all the time. Well, you can't have both of those things. So if you're going to demand that he go out and work more hours or be gone more, then, I mean, there's the trade-off, because you want fancy. I mean, if you're going to demand fancy things, then you're going to have to know that comes with him being gone. So, you got to be careful with that.
Yeah, there's definitely that exchange of, like you said, a trade-off of time and money. And
yeah. And you have to figure out what's more important,
Yeah, absolutely.
To me, time is more important. So
is that part of the advice you give to the younger couples? Just
yeah. And I think a big thing that we try to talk to people about is like, it's really part of the trade to like grind. Like it's like an admirable thing to work 7 days a week or 6 12s or whatever. It's like, that's fine. But like, you also like live your life, you've got a boat, you've got a 4-wheeler, you've got all these things. Do you have time to use those things? Like, do you have, you're making tons of money, but where's the quality of life? What are you doing with that? So we're pretty passionate about that as well. Like, well, go out and live life and take some time off. Like, there's no shame in that. And you are literally in the best trade for that. My husband's always like, peace out. We're leaving for 3 months. I'll come back and find something else. Like, and he has no shame in that. And people know at this point in the contract world, they know Spank rolls into a work site. They're like, oh, he's going to be taking some major vacation, but they still want him because he's a good worker. But they know that he's going to be, that's in his blood, travel and adventure.
And it doesn't help that you like to venture, and
I do, yeah.
Kind of the pre-talk
we've on me.
Yeah, going to 40 countries does that to you.
Yeah.
Before we talk about that, I just want to kind of hit a few more key points we can kind of share with the audience. Is
sure.
What are your conversations now like surrounding his work, and are you guys kind of helping each other out with strengths and weaknesses or blind spots? What kind of, it's 20, you guys are 20 married 20 years, and it's a long time.
Yeah. It was 20 years together, 18 married this year. And we really do talk about everything. Nothing is off the table. So yeah, we talk about everything. And right now we're definitely talking about, next steps, and that the biggest part of that really is the trade with the job. So, discussing going back to contract in California, which is where we're leaning, just because it gives us so much more flexibility and freedom, and the pay is better. not gonna lie. Um, so yeah, and just my husband, he just is not a guy to sit. He doesn't want to. He doesn't like the slow pace. Honestly, he likes fast paced work environment, and he just likes doing different things constantly and seeing different things, and he doesn't even want to see the same scenery every day. So.
Yeah.
Besides my face.
There you go. Yeah.
He better.
You're like this face behind the beach or behind the mountains.
Yeah.
That's cool. I know you're passionate about traveling and you've been to 40, you guys been to 40 countries. What's that like, kind of seeing that different perspective of traveling?
Oh, it's awesome. It's eye-opening, and we feel incredibly blessed to have been able to see like God's creation in that capacity. It's just amazing. Like it's really cool. And people are like, "Oh, you do it for work?" Like, no, we do that for fun. We take off, and it just allows you, especially my husband, and other linemen will understand this, to decompress, to really just decompress and like get work out of your mind for, if we go for 3 months, which we do that, like we'll do 3-month trip, he can really just stop and not think about work at all and just like be and just, think about other things, meditate on other things, think about the meaning of life or whatever he wants to think of, So it's a really good time to just like hit the reset button. That's aside from just seeing all the amazing places and different cultures and meeting different people and realizing how alike we all actually are. It's good for the soul.
Do you think like when you're gone for 3 months, do you think when he gets back to work, does it offer him that new perspective, a new step in it?
Yeah, he's ready to go back.
Yeah.
He's not, he gets worn out, but then once he's taken some time off, he's like, okay, I'm ready to go back to work. I'm ready. I'm like, yeah, he's rejuvenated then. So it's really good for him, especially.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's real easy to go 6, 12, 7 days a week, and then a year flies by, and you're like, oh, wow, I did not really take advantage of that.
Yeah.
And then you see your bank account looks pretty good, but as far as those memories, it comes a little bit.
Yes.
I'm trying to do better at that. My wife and I just had those conversations of being intentional with that, taking that time out, and I never realized it until a couple of years ago, where it's like, you know what? Yeah, there's some opportunities to take and get away. Like I said, decompress is pretty neat. So.
Yep. Yeah.
Where are you traveling to next?
We moved back to Washington and did not have as much vacation time, but God knew what we needed here, and we needed to travel still. And so in our first year, we already had a trip planned to Costa Rica with our nephew. And so and Alaska. That's our annual trip. We go to Alaska. So we had a month off from the get-go, like right in the first year my husband started. And then the second year, we were working on adopting our son, which I'm sure we'll talk more about too. But then my husband got paternity leave, so he's had 12 weeks off from the state of Washington. Thank you very much. And we next are headed to Kauai for my 40th birthday.
Oh, right on.
Yay. Congrats. That's in April. So we're just like a month away from that. And then we're hitting Alaska in June. That's our annual trip. We actually spent a summer working in Alaska in 2017 at an RV park and gold mining camp. Wow. My husband was super into gold mining, so he's like, I really want to go up there, just like do a road trip, do some mining for a week. And then he started following them on Facebook. It's Chicken Gold Camp. Those are my peeps.
Shout out.
It's in Chicken, Alaska, which is on the border of Canada, right across from the Yukon. It's like the middle of nowhere. So my husband starts following them, and they posted an ad looking for 2 people, preferably a couple, to come up and work for the summer. And my husband's like, we have to apply for this. I was like, no. I looked at Google Maps, and it was like a pile of dirt. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. That's crazy. Guess what I did? I applied for it. Guess what happened? We got the job.
Perfect.
So we spent the whole summer in Chicken, Alaska, and it was like literally one of the best decisions of our lives. The people are amazing. We've made some of the best friends. I get goosebumps thinking about them because I just love them so much. They're just the best people. So we go up to their annual music festival called Chicken Stock. Yes. Chicken stock.
Interesting.
Yes. And then we go over to the Kenai Peninsula and do some fishing for a while too. So.
And this is in June?
Yep. Yeah. Do 2.5 weeks in June. And then our next big international trip, we haven't really done a ton of international lately, especially since COVID happened. It was kind of up in the air for a while. But we're taking our nephew to Europe. So we're doing Paris and Italy. Because we kind of got to the point where we're like, I don't think we're going to have kids, and we're cool with that really. But let's like give back to some of the kids in our family and like include them in our legacy of travel because we really want them to be exposed to that. So we decided that we would take all the nieces, nephews, whoever, not whoever, but nieces and nephews, half brothers, half sisters who are younger on a trip anywhere they wanted to go in the world when they turned 15. So we are on number 4 right now. And it's been amazing. Yeah, it's a dent in the pocketbook for sure, but it's totally worth it because we just get so much good quality time with these kids that we've never really like had a ton of time with. Like we see them on holidays, and now we get to take them on a safari in Africa, which was our first trip, or we get to take them to French Polynesia, to Bora Bora, to jump off of our balcony into the water with the stingrays. Or Costa Rica, which was 2 years ago now, I guess, with our oldest nephew, and river raft, the Pequari River, and see the Caribbean, and yeah,
that is so cool. To Europe. And that memory lasts forever. Like that toy or that gift card is going to last for so long, but that memory's you're going to be like, I did that with my aunt, uncle, or half brother, and it's like
we love that.
That's so cool. That's awesome.
Yeah,
very inspiring.
It's fun. Yeah, it's fun. All the memories we have with them now that we can kind of giggle at our inside jokes and stuff. When we see them still, and they're like, the oldest who we took on when she was 15 is now, gosh, I don't know, 24 or something, and married, and we still have those fun memories to laugh about.
And you could put that travel bug in them. Like there's a world outside the United States, different perspective. And eventually maybe they can start taking you on trips when they.
We hope so. We're like, we kind of expect a payback at some point, right? They might be in wheelchairs, but.
Here's my wish list.
Yeah.
All right, cool, Sarah. Let's push this along. I know you got to get going here a little bit, but let's talk about your books, Tiny Tradesmen.
Yeah.
How'd this start? What's going on here?
So obviously I was inspired by my husband being a lineman, and I've been a writer. The only other book that I wrote a travel memoir kind of after our first big 7-month trip around the world, and then got in, and then something, I don't know why I even had a wild hair to write kids books, because I had never done that before and I didn't have any kids. So it's like, what? This is out of left field. Seemingly, God had a plan. But yeah, so my husband and I just started talking about it, and I was like, oh, that'd be cool to do like a series about the trades. And, we both have some crazy ideas, and every once in a while, one of those crazy ideas, the other one looks at the other one and goes, oh, yeah, that's a good one. Run with it. And that's what my husband did. He's like, you got to run with that. There's nothing like that out there. You got to do that. So yeah, I just started plugging along and found myself, wrote a manuscript, found myself an illustrator on kind of a gallery database of hundreds of illustrators, and then got to work and figuring out I self-published, which I did with my first book too. I like that just because it gives me the freedom to do what I want with my book, and I don't have anybody lording over me and telling me, what I can and can't do with that stuff. So that's the route I chose, which also comes along with a lot of marketing and all those things that writers and creative people are not very good at.
Yeah. Tough.
But I'm trying. So
it's a skill for sure.
Yeah.
What age group are the books kind of aimed for? Yeah,
I would say, I think I say on Amazon, well, I don't want to say Amazon because I'd rather people get it on my website, Tiny Tradesmen. But I say like 4 to 7, but yeah, really like 2nd, 3rd, 4th graders is probably the sweet spot. So as young as 2, because my little guy actually enjoys some of just the pictures and being like, "Daddy, that's Daddy," on the power lines, on the power pole. And then up to 10, like older kids like it too, because when I visit schools, which I've done in the last couple of years, they just think the process is cool and they think it's neat to meet an author as well. So I get to talk about both of those things, the trades and the creative process.
Is it something a parent could be reading at bedtime or?
Yes. Yeah. We've done that already with the 2-year-old. And I mean, he probably picks the books because my picture's on the back. Let's be real.
There you go.
He's like, Mama. But yeah, good bedtime story. And really, you know what? The parents learn a lot too. Especially if they're not in the trades, the parents will learn a lot. And I've learned a lot along the way. Like welding, I didn't really know anything about. And there's still some parts that are really foggy to me. I'm like, how does that work again? I don't know. My brain doesn't work that way. So, but yeah, I've learned so much along the way. So adults can learn from it too.
We talk about that travel bug, getting that travel bug. And then with your books, highlighting the trades, you talk about just that career bug or that path. And I think kids or little boys in general are kind of just drawn to big equipment.
Oh, yes.
The garbage man or just the backhoe working on the street. Like you spend enough time going on the death scroll of Instagram or YouTube shorts, you're bound to come up with some little kid just enjoying going crazy over garbage man or something like that. Yeah. But why do you think it's so important to teach kids the value of like the trades?
Yeah, I think it's really important because, well, there's a lot of reasons. Like Mike Rowe says, he's very passionate about like gearing people toward the trades instead of college. He's not anti-college. He just says it's not for everybody. So, which I am totally on board with. And shout out to Mike Rowe. If you ever want to talk to me, I would love that as well.
Oh, I send him open emails all the time.
Oh my gosh, me too. Yeah. Like a stalker, but it's fine. One day. But yeah, I think it's really important just to show kids from a young age that that you don't have to go to college to be successful. That's such an indoctrination right now that we've been taught since we were little. Oh, if you don't go to college, well, then you're a loser. It's like, that's not true. But kids, if you don't teach people from a young age these things, it's not going to stick. So, it's great to teach them in high school and maybe junior high, but get them right when they're really little, when they love the big equipment, when they're already obsessed with that kind of stuff anyhow. And they're already like, oh, that's so cool. Like, why not say, well, you know what that does? You know what they're doing? Do you know how that works and what they provide? And then that's the other aspect is just giving them, instilling them with some gratitude about where that comes from. It's important that we know where our food comes from, how our electricity works, how come we have clean water coming out of our sink, which, spoiler alert, is going to be my next book about the water industry.
Nice.
But yeah, we just need to know about how all of those things work. And it's so important for kids. And like I said, gratitude is a huge, huge thing for me. So I want them to have some gratitude for everybody, not just the scholars. That's, what are they doing to really impact your life on a daily basis? Probably not a lot. Probably not as much as the garbage man is.
Yeah.
Really.
That's good public service. It's public utility.
Pile of garbage laying around, stinky. If he wasn't there to pick it up for you. So.
Yeah, absolutely. It's crazy. And I kind of wanted to bring up a point is, and I didn't realize this till recently. They essentially kind of got rid of those electives of auto body to my knowledge, to the best of my knowledge.
Yes.
And
for the most part,
And wood shop is gone, but it's like, what happened? Like, not everyone's going to see a path towards education or continuing education. Like for me, I was happy when I signed by my senior year, I was already enlisted into the military. I had to wait to finish high school and everything, but it was part of that reason was because I didn't want that conversation of like, take your ACT, SAT. Like I was like, I'm done. Like, leave me alone. Yeah. I'm good. Yeah. My path is kind of set.
Yeah.
And to your point, I think it's important that you go to these classes and there's that meet and greet, there's the interaction, and you're providing the story. And then, like you said, the follow up with the job fair or, just trade industries connecting with the youth to let them know, like, hey, there's a career when you get done with school or you need a path. Like, we're going to be here. Like, our trades are not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So we need to keep ourselves relevant in that conversation.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they have to know it's an option from the get-go.
And a good option.
Not just a second thought.
Yeah.
Right, for sure.
Yeah.
Like, well, I guess if this doesn't work out, then maybe I'll just go, and be a carpenter. Like, no, that should be a first thought.
Yeah, absolutely. And just working, even if you're not the trades person, working around electrical engineer or mechanical engineer, like these are all great careers for the foreseeable future. They pay well. There's a great gratification to, like you said, to them, and they're sustainable. Like, we're going to have a good amount of work to come. So that's cool.
Yeah.
You kind of mentioned that, but writing your books has given you a different perspective. Obviously, your first book was based upon a lineman, and then your second one's kind of welding. Has your perspective kind of shifted since writing these books?
I think I've realized, like, there's just so much more to it. Just learning more about those trades, I'm like, whoa, there's so much more to it that I didn't even know was out there or was possible. And then there's questions that I still have to answer because these kids in this school really hit you hard. You're like, I don't know that. Like, where's my lineman or welder with me when I go to these schools?
Yeah, you might need that.
I'm just the writer, and they're asking me some hard questions. So I'm like, dang, I need to study up a little bit better. So yeah, I have even more respect for the trades, I think, since I started writing these books. And this is kind of off topic, but also to that, I've really tried hard to make everything as accurate as possible too. Obviously, it was a little bit easier with my first book because my husband's a lineman, so I could fact check with him. But then my welding book, I searched out like 4 different welder friends that could look over the book and make sure everything's accurate, because the tradesmen are also pretty tough on you if you don't get your stuff right. They're like, no, I call BS on that.
And that's important to get it right. To show the representation. Yeah.
Especially, I'm teaching the kids. So let's teach them right the first time so somebody doesn't have to come and cover my butt later on.
How encouraging and how much involved was Chris with that first book?
He was really encouraging. And he is with all of them. And he's one of my editors as well. He looks over everything. He's my editor. He's my critic. He's my financial advisor, which I really need because I'm really not good at that. But yeah, he's incredibly supportive and encouraging, and he was really excited. Obviously, he was really excited about the first one, probably the most.
Absolutely,
since that was his trade.
That's cool, and he knows the author.
Yeah.
Take a quick question from this book I'm reading. It's called Your Brain Weighs 500 Pounds by Derek Pledger. I've referenced this book a few times already in the podcast. It's pretty dope. So, all right, here's what it says. It's recipe 75, the most important 4-letter word, earn. We can all agree that there's a certain dignity that comes with earning things we value. There are a lot of positive emotions associated with earning a result or creating things that other people value through tireless work. Why don't more people do it then? Thomas Edison once said, opportunity is missed by most people because it is dressed in overalls and looks like work. This quote captures the essence of where we are today, when there has never been as much of an obsession with instant gratification. Sarah, I want to ask you, earning your German lineman status ticket or any German status is in a specific trade. It's not easy. It's not meant to be easy. It comes with a earned, disciplined, and work ethic. Why do you think it's important to continue to highlight careers as a skilled labor or tradesman?
I love that. I love that quote you pulled out about earning, because it creates so much pride for people, and we are lacking that. I mean, the trades, we need to replace people who are retiring, for one. That's like a basic reality, but we also just need to instill people with a sense of pride in their work again, because a lot of people just don't really want to work, and that they think it's more fun to sit on the couch and watch Netflix, but it doesn't give you a purpose. we need a purpose. We are built and ingrained with that sense of needing a purpose. And the trades just really helps to fulfill that for a lot of people. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Hopefully I answered your question.
No, you did great. I like to throw in a loaded question where it's kind of just off the wall. So
I guess.
Yeah. I want to speed things along. I know you got to get going here,
Sure.
but what did you learn from book 1 that you took into 2 and now 3?
Let's see.
Why are you sweating, Sarah?
I don't know.
Just kidding.
I'm trying to choose my words wisely. Maybe no. I have to learn to be a little more confident with myself and my decisions in my writing ability, and not let the critics get you down. I wouldn't say I've had a lot of critics. Mostly linewives. The community has been amazing, and people are very kind and just want to support you, and that's been awesome. But there's been a couple here and there where you're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Maybe I shouldn't have said that, or and it kind of gets you questioning what you did. And it's like, no, I need to be confident in that decision. And so I think as I've gone along, I've gotten hopefully a little more confident in that, and confident in being my own boss, because that doesn't come naturally to me either. And I really hate self-promotion, like absolutely hate it. It's like makes me cringe. I'm like, I don't, it feels awkward. So I've had to get better at that as well as time has gone by. It's still hard, but yeah, it's a lifelong process probably.
Absolutely too. And there's always that imposter syndrome. It's tough.
Mm-hmm.
I think we all kind of maybe deal with it at some point. So.
Yeah. Well, and I grew up when I was a kid, I had glasses, like the big glasses. My teeth were all wonky and I had braces. My dad called me shark tooth because there was another row growing at the same time. That was really nice. So I seriously still live like, it's like I look in the mirror and I still see that girl sometimes and I'm like, oh, it's like, oh no.
Now your face is on.
She still haunts me.
Yeah, there you go. Where do you see the series of Tiny Tradesmen in 5 years?
Oh, my goal so far has been to try and get a book out a year. I've kind of started to slow down a little bit, especially with we're working on adopting our son still. And that's been a 2-year process so far that we're hopefully almost done with. But yeah, I would love to have at least 5 books in the series, and then we'll see where we go from there. Again, Mike Rowe, if you could throw me a bone, that would probably help it out a lot.
Just saying, Mike.
Go on, Mike.
That's cool. We can wrap up the book talk. I want to kind of talk about that adoption process and what kind of led to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you don't mind.
Oh yeah. Man, that's a story in itself, but the best author is God. He writes some crazy good stories, and sometimes you're just in the story and you don't even know what's happening most of the time, actually. So, yeah, my husband and I decided on a whim kind of to move back to Washington State. He wanted to get vested in his PERS retirement, so he needed a couple more years at a utility to do so. So that was part of our incentive. And then also just to be closer to my nephew, who is 6 years old, and he's growing up without a dad in his life. So we really wanted to be around him a little more. Unfortunately, that got derailed because God dropped a baby in our laps. But that was my literal prayer. Like, we were kind of like, okay, we're not going to have kids. And I always have had a heart for adoption because my dad was adopted. My husband's grandpa was adopted. So we have a lot of those stories in our own family history. So I felt it on my heart. And then I just was like, my husband's like, I don't know if I want to do that. It seems like such a daunting process and like so emotionally heart-wrenching and just difficult, and we really loved our lifestyle of travel and just doing what we wanted, you know? So I just tossed up like a Hail Mary prayer and said, God, if you want us to adopt, you're literally going to have to throw a baby in our laps. And we moved back to Washington February 2 years ago. 2 weeks later, we get a call from my husband's aunt saying, I don't know where you guys are in life, but my good friend just flew down to another state to pick up her grandson who was born, and her daughter has relinquished her rights. She can't take care of the baby, and she's looking for someone to adopt him. And we were like, oh, crap. In the best way,
Yeah.
So we were like, okay, let's put a pin in that because this is obviously God's doing, but this is terrifying. And a week or two later, his aunt called again and said, she's serious. She wants to talk to you. She wants to meet you if you guys are willing. And so she's like, and I'm going to send you a picture of the baby. Okay, well, sent the picture of the baby and it was like, it's over now. So that same weekend, we went over and met him over in Eastern Washington, about 3 hours from where we are right now. And we knew it was completely God's plan. And if we were going to say no to that, then we were going to say no to God ultimately. So it was an act of obedience. Of course, we were totally in love with him when we first saw him anyhow. So it wasn't that hard, but it was hard because it was going to change our entire lives. That's what a baby does.
Absolutely, yeah.
But then from then on out, we basically drove to Spokane pretty much every weekend to see him for the next year and a half. So put 30,000 miles on my brand new Subaru. And yeah, we just were in his life as much as possible. Basically, we spent like a third of his life with him, having him overnight, doing like respite care for grandma for the first year and a half of his life. And then just in September, we were able to finally get foster custody of him. That's their process. We have to foster him for 6 months before we can adopt. So we got him full time and living with us. And but prior to that, we were really eased into it because again, God knew that like we could not handle a full on baby in our laps like right away. So he was like, I'm just going to ease this baby into your lives because you guys are not ready. And you guys are crazy gypsy travelers that like to live, footloose and fancy free. So we're just going to sprinkle the baby in here and then boom, he's yours.
It's a good process.
Yeah. So yeah, he's been with us for 6 months now. We just celebrated our concurrence date, which is their fancy term for 6 months of fostering, on March 13th. And we are literally waiting this week for a phone call from our attorney to schedule our adoption court date.
Wow, that's great. Congrats. Yeah. So hopefully wishing you guys the best. Obviously, it's going to, sounds like new addition to the family is going to roll into a great family with tons of adventures and stories and some great values to kind of converse about. So
yeah, we're so excited.
All right, cool. Let's get ready to wrap this up. But I know before we wrap up, I want to give you the opportunity to talk about a scholarship you're discussing.
Yeah, my husband and he has 4 lineman buddies that all grew up in the same county as him. It's crazy because we were down in California, Jamestown area, and they were all contracting at the same yard, and we were all living at the same RV park. Us and guys who grew up in a town of 200 people.
Lots of 30-pack beers.
Oh, yeah, lots of those. It was like, maybe we need to move somewhere else. This is getting dangerous. But it was fun. It was a lot of fun. But they kind of decided at that time that they were going to do a scholarship for a graduating senior in their county, small county. There's 4 schools, I think. 4 schools, yeah. I think that's right, that can apply basically. So not a huge pool, but really neat because it's giving back to their own local community. So it's literally just any senior graduating in Pend Oreille County can apply. It's a $10,000 scholarship, which is awesome. Each of the 5 guys, can I say their names?
Yeah, absolutely.
The scholarship. Oh, yeah. So we have Travis Smith, his brother Justin Smith. We have my husband, obviously, Hootie, David. I can't even think of his last name right now. It's too complicated. And Brandon Corkill. So there's 5 guys. They all contribute $2,000 of their own money, hard-earned money, every year for this $10,000 scholarship. And this year we were lucky enough to get a donation of $1,000 gift card from Buckingham. I see you're wearing your Buckingham shirt. Yay. Shout out to Buckingham. They were generous enough to give us $1,000 gift card for our scholarship recipient as well. And then Milwaukee donated about almost nearly $500 worth of tools.
Wow.
So it's really cool that these big companies are like looking at our tiny little scholarship we started, and bolstering them. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's cool. And there's a website I could put in the show notes for that, or what do you got?
I mean, you can read about it. You probably can't apply for it unless you live in Ponderay County. But we get random people asking, and we're like, yeah, you have to live in Ponderay County. It's kind of a niche thing. But yeah, it's the lineman of POCO.com.
Cool.
POCO. Yeah.
I'll put in the show notes. Like I said, it's a small pool of candidates available, but I think at least that conversation could inspire others to maybe do the same thing, or maybe someone randomly knows someone that kind of needs that guidance in that county. So that's great. That's a great conversation.
All of our recipients so far have gone on to be super successful. They're all in the trade in some facet. So we have our very first recipient, I think, is going into his 5th step. They're all working at a major line company and working on their apprenticeships. So that's really cool.
That's cool. And they can have 4 mentors that they can kind of talk to and get some
experience. If they have any
experience.
Questions, they're welcome to ask the guys and get some good insight from them too. So
that's cool.
Yep.
A lot of things going on for you guys.
Yeah.
And the 3rd book is going to be out?
I would hope in the fall. It just kind of depends on the process here. And I also do want to say the 3rd book is about the water industry. And I had a collaborator for that one. A gentleman named Steve Hernandez contacted me via Instagram. His company is WaterWise Pro, and he does training for people who want to get into the water industry. And he contacted me and said, hey, I want to sponsor a book. And I was like, okay, go ahead. So we worked together. He funded my next book, which is incredibly generous. And I just love his passion for the water industry. And so, he funded that project and helped me, with all the information that comes along with the water industry, and made sure that we're all accurate on that as well. We're just in the process right now of getting our sketches from the illustrator and shoring that up. And then we can move on to the color version and then printing and all that jazz. So I want to say the fall, but it could be next spring too. We'll see how we go.
Cool. That sounds great. Yeah. Looking forward to it. Yeah. Sarah, let's wrap this up. Where can people find you? Where can people order the books? Give all that good details. Yeah.
So my website is Tiny Tradesmen. All right, there, tinytradesmen.com. You can order the books on there. Like I said, I'm on Amazon, but they take 40%. So it would be great if you would order right from here. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram at Tiny Tradesmen Books.
Very cool. You going to be at the rodeos this year? Any rodeos planned?
I haven't planned any yet, but hopefully I usually make it to the Pacific Northwest one down in Oregon. But I do have a really cool thing that I'm going to be setting up at in May, and it's called Dozer Days. So that's cool because it's like they bring out all these huge trucks, and the kids get to like drive them and operate heavy machinery. So I'm going to have a booth there. That's in State Line, Idaho, at the Cabela's there, North Idaho, so near Post Falls area. So that's May 4th and 5th. If anybody's in that area, I should definitely come check it out and say hi to me there.
Very cool.
Yeah.
You got your little tent, your little setup, and you got the books there. And the earrings too, but you can probably get the earrings there too.
Yeah. I make some earrings, it's just like a side hustle hobby thing.
Doing it all.
Takes me a million years because I don't have one of those fancy cut machines. I did it by hand.
Handmade.
What an idiot.
Lineman wife made.
Yeah.
Sarah, I appreciate you coming on. Thank you
so much for having me.
Yeah, for sure. I'm glad I met you twice at the rodeos. We connected. Yes. So I'm glad you got to come on.
Yeah.
Podcast.
Thank you so much.
Cool. Sarah, you guys follow her. Get the word out there. tinytradesmen.com, right?
Yep.
Okay, cool. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this episode. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Chris, too. All right, guys. Till next time, I want to thank the entire Sturgis, California workforce. Without you, this podcast would not be possible. Subscribe, share, like this podcast. I'm sorry. All right, guys. I'm going to wrap this up. Appreciate you.